wanna bury you in 6 feet of sugar. I wanna watch you come back to me. With every step I pray it doesn't rain. My own candy mountain.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of Junk Food News. This is going to be the episode of Junk Food News for September 2016. We haven't done one in a little while. We've sort of been taking a hiatus, and I've decided to kind of play with the format a little bit. So to start off, we're going to talk about what we did for September. The big thing that happened was, obviously, we moved back to Canada since September. We've been kind of settling in. We also took a bit of a break, a long break in between, and we went to Walt Disney World. And we drove from Canada all the way down to Florida and stopped off at a few places along the way, including stopped in Philadelphia, and I tried a cheesesteak, which was awesome. And went to Disney, had all kinds of snacks. We're going to have an episode of Junk Food on the Road coming up, where Allison and I are going to talk about some of the things that we ate at Disney World. And we'll also have an article on our blog later on, or if you're reading this, it might already be up. If you're listening to this later on, it might already be up. But other than that, we're settling back in. We're actually moving back in. We're actually unpacking boxes because we're back from living abroad for 6 years. We're back in Canada, and we're starting to really get it assimilated back in North American stuff. So I got a whole bunch of North American treats that I'm dying to try out to sort of get myself back in and learn about what's been going on in my home and native land up here in Canada since I left. In the news this week, or this month, as you know, Gene Wilder had died earlier on, and there was a whole bunch of people producing artwork and tributes to Gene Wilder, and so many of them are candy related. And on our Twitter feed at Candy Critic, you can check out. We posted some links to some of these cool tributes, and they're really, really amazing. And you know, what better man is there to represent candy than Gene Wilder? Also, early in September, there was an article about a company that was apparently using Coca-Cola to stash cocaine, to import cocaine. So it wasn't actually Coca-Cola, of course, but it just sort of brings me back to the idea that originally Coca-Cola was actually a stimulant and did actually contain cocaine. So that's kind of cool, kind of crazy how it turned all the way around. Mental Floss posted an interesting video all about cavities. And did you know that cavities are actually produced when bacteria poops acid in your mouth? That'll make you at least brush your teeth 3 times today, I guarantee it. But even though we do enjoy candies here, we always recommend brush after eating and make sure your teeth are clean, because without good teeth, you can't enjoy candy properly. I also came across an interesting recipe this month all about making the simplest ice cream cake, and it's an idea that if it wasn't put in front of you, you'd think, why didn't I think of this myself? And basically what you do is use icing and stack together ice cream sandwiches and just put them into a cake. It's a brilliant idea, and again, I'm surprised I didn't come up with it. And my birthday is in March, so anybody that wants to get me a cake, this is a perfect idea, and you get to make it yourself. There was also a really interesting article about a Ukrainian chef named, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, Diana Kasko, who makes these absolutely stunningly beautiful cakes. I mean, they just look like works of art. Like you could put them in a museum, no problem. I really enjoy looking at beautiful, beautiful sweet treats and beautiful cakes and pastries and everything like that. My one fault, and I haven't tried these, so I don't know if this is the case, I often find really good looking desserts can often taste really, really bland and boring. Chefs and bakers really tend to lose sight of the idea of making something taste good as well as making it look good at the same time. It's a really difficult thing because a lot of the products you use to make something look good often don't taste that great. And often the things that make things taste great aren't necessarily sturdy and can't be built into something amazing. So it's a continuing battle, but it's a battle that I think is worth fighting, and I hope that I can taste and see as many of these cool desserts as I possibly can. We posted a really interesting article on September 6th, and the headline we put on there was, "Think all McDonald's are the same? Think again." And it was about a man who traveled all over the world to try different things at different McDonald's. A lot of people who maybe haven't traveled that much, or who don't go into McDonald's when they do travel, don't know that McDonald's all over the world have such different things and interesting things to try. One of my favorite things to do, and Allison really loves to do this too, is we like to try the pies out in different places. I think it was, I can't remember where, Thailand I think it was, where we had a chocolate and strawberry pie. Japan has the famous potato and cheese or potato and onion pie. And Thailand, I think, and a few other countries also have pineapple pies. Really kind of fascinating. Burgers can also change a lot as well. We went to a McDonald's in India and had like horrible burgers. We absolutely hated them, but completely different. And obviously no beef, so there was vegetarian and chicken patties instead. And Australia had a burger that had beetroot on it, and I believe it actually had lamb inside the meat. So again, this is a really fascinating article to see somebody who's tried even more McDonald's than I have. But it really tells you, if you do travel outside of the country, and even if you travel inside your country, because they might be regional things, just because it's McDonald's, it's not all cookie cutter. They really do cater to different flavors wherever you go. So give it a try and read this article. It's pretty fascinating. So you had a few too many to drink last night, but for some reason you wake up the next morning and you're craving greasy food. How does that happen? Why would that happen? I mean, if you're not feeling well, why do you crave greasy food? Apparently there's a bit of science behind that. It's not just a myth. There might actually be something to it. And we found a great article all about why do we crave greasy food when we're hungover. Definitely worth reading, and next time you have a few too many to drink, something to think about. For those of you into baking trends, Dominique Ansel, the creator of the Cronut, has opened up a bakery in London. So he's finally the official Cronut. I mean, I know a lot of places sell croissant donuts and things like that, but the official ones are actually now available in London. He also makes a lot of other really interesting desserts, sort of creative things that I don't know if they're necessarily beautiful, but they're inspired and they're very different. So if you're in London or if you're in New York, where his original bakery is, highly, highly recommend checking some of his things out. Two problems you might have: very expensive, and also tends to be a bit of a lineup to get some of this stuff. So, but if you get the opportunity, try it out, and it's great. I mean, hopefully he'll expand. Hopefully the quality won't go down, though, when he has two different restaurants. Hopefully he can keep an eye on it and keep the quality up really well. If you're looking for the super caffeine boost, you might have to travel to Australia. There's apparently a cafe at Viscous Coffee in Adelaide that is selling a cup of coffee that is 75 times more caffeinated than a regular cup of coffee. While I think that might work for some people, I think there might even be some that it's a little too much. It's a really slow process, and I believe it takes even several days to make one cup of coffee. So it's a lot of work, but if you really, really want that super, super strong cup of coffee, maybe if you're pulling all-nighter for exams or something like that, this might be the place to go if you can afford the flight to Adelaide. Hey, if you're enjoying some of these articles, remember, you can find links to everything that I'm talking about on our Twitter feed, @CandyCritic. You can also find it on our Facebook page. You can go to www.candycritic.org, and you'll find links to our Facebook page there. Check that out, and you can read back on these, as well as keep up on all the news stuff as we're publishing it. So there's an interesting article I found about McDonald's, and it has a bit of a food lab behind it. As you know, as I actually mentioned earlier in this podcast, McDonald's all over the world come up with different things, and they have to research and develop, and it can be kind of a challenging thing. But at one point, McDonald's decided that they should create bubblegum flavored broccoli, the idea being that little kids would then eat their broccoli. What they didn't figure is that bubblegum broccoli is disgusting, and not even little kids are stupid enough to eat it. Apparently it was a complete flop, and it did not work at all. But, it's interesting that they really put some effort into this, kind of creating these frankenfoods. It seems that there's a few people out there that are trying to make potato chips the next fancy food that isn't really fancy. There's a lot of trends about people sort of taking sort of old favorite candies and junk food and turning them into haute cuisine. Chips are probably going to be the next big thing. I see this. We posted an article about it, but I've seen a lot of trends towards flavored chips and chips accompanying other foods being a thing. So keep an eye out. Your next fancy restaurant is probably going to come with a bag of potato chips. If you find yourself traveling to the UK, you might want to travel to Patley Bridge in England. Apparently, they have a candy shop there called the Oldest Sweet Shop. The reason why it's called the Oldest Sweet Shop is because apparently it is. It was opened in 1827 and continues to run to this day. I found a really interesting article with all kinds of the oldest shops in both North America and around the world, and one of them is this Old Sweet Shop. I travel to the UK a lot, and I think next time I go there, I might have to give this place a try. I'm wondering, too, if what kind of selections they have inside there, whether they have some of the traditional candies that they sold when they first opened. That'd be actually really cool. Well, for some reason, science wants to ruin my life. More and more studies have come out, and apparently there's more proof. The 5-second rule is not officially a thing. That's right, if you drop something on the floor, it gets disgusting immediately. You don't get 5 seconds to clean it up before it's actually going to cause you any harm. If your floors are really dirty, if there's any bacteria on it, yep, you can get sick immediately. So, if you drop that M&M, calling 5-second rule won't help you. This month was, of course, Talk Like a Pirate Day, one of my favorite holidays that's not associated with candy. But of course, Krispy Kreme managed to make it associated with junk food quite quickly. If you went into Krispy Kreme on Talk Like a Pirate Day and said, "Arr," they would give you a free donut. If you came to Krispy Kreme and you were dressed as a pirate, you got a free dozen donuts. I love when companies get involved with this cool holiday. Personally, I think this is one of the best fake holidays in the world, and I hope it lasts forever and ever, and I hope more and more companies inspire people to dress and talk like a pirate all the time. Have you ever heard of a potato chip brand called The Whole Shebang? Well, only a certain percentage of this world has actually ever heard of them or tasted them. That's because the only way you can get these chips is to be in prison. Yes, there is a particular brand of chips that is delivered to prisoners, and it's called The Whole Shebang. Apparently, there's a bit of a growing interest in them because people get out of prison, they remember eating them, and they want to try them again, but can't find them. I know how well that's like. Whenever you move someplace new, you find, you remember something you like and you really want to have it. I'd be really interested if they made these public, even for a short amount of time, because I wouldn't mind trying a bag of prison chips. Recently in Bangkok, there was a unicorn cafe open, which has all kinds of glittery, fun, sparkly things. Well, I'm not too interested in the glittery and sparkly. I think the desserts there look absolutely fantastic, or at least they look all colorful and pretty. I mean, in a unicorn-like way. Just in time for the fall holidays, and for those that want something a little bit weird, Brax, which are famously known for making candy corn, have made special flavored candy corn that comes in brunch favorites. The flavors include French toast and maple syrup, waffles and strawberry, and chocolate chip pancakes. Yes, it's official, candy corns have gotten weird. Speaking of interesting and fun candy, Doritos in Japan has created a new type of Dorito that's all black, so the chip is all black, and it's garlic flavor. The greatest thing is they themed it for Halloween, and so they're vampire-repelling chips. That's awesome. I think more candy companies should think about, Halloween-themed things that are not just turning it into the shape of a Halloween character, but sort of a bit of backstory and a bit of thought to it. Hey everybody, it's time for a little dose of reality. You know that canned pumpkin you get? Not actually pumpkin. Turns out it's other gourds and spices. So maybe that's why when people make pumpkin pie with real pumpkin and as opposed to canned pumpkin, there's a huge difference because one's actually made with pumpkin. After I published this, I actually got a bit of comments, and people actually tell me that these canned pumpkin companies aren't the only ones. Some people do sneak other types of gourds into their pies and say that they bake better and work better. It kind of intrigued me, and I think maybe in the future I might try and do a gourd pie contest and see which gourd makes the best pie to see if pumpkin pie is actually the best. A chip brand company called Paqui Chips has created the Super Chip, the ultimate hot chip, the Carolina Reaper Madness chip. It's supposed to be super, super spicy and blow your socks off, so you can't really get through a whole bag. Fortunately, they've got your back because they sell the chips individually. Yes, they figure the chip is so hot, you'll be lucky to get one down. Thanks for listening to our latest episode of Junk Food News. As always, you can find the articles that we read about and read them in more detail on our Twitter feed @CandyCritic, or you can go to candycritic.org and find our link to our Facebook, and we also post all the links on there as well. As always, if you want to follow this blog, you can go to www.candycritic.org/junkfood, JUNKFUD, and you can find links to all of the past episodes of this. You can also follow us on YouTube, and you can follow us on SoundCloud with links all on that www.candycritic.org/junkfood. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next month. Bye.
I wanna bear you 6 feet of sugar. I wanna watch you come back to me. With every step I pray it doesn't rain. My own Candy Mountain. They say things don't last, but hey, I've always holding my candy. Not much of a sweet tooth anyway. I wanna bear you 6 feet of sugar, honey. I wanna bear you 6 feet of sugar, I need. Wanna bear you 6 feet of sugar